What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. Today, we are here to do a nice little draft on Underdog Fantasy. And with us today, we have Danny from the Fantasy Stock Exchange. It's been a while since we did a little draft together. It's always nice to have a meeting of the minds, especially right now, as like we're heading into August. I'd love to, get some takes from Danny himself. So, how are we doing today? What are the takes flowing?
Yeah, doing well, and it's actually
Jalen Talbert takes today.
Yeah, so if you guys are unfamiliar with the lore in our group chat, anytime I mention a Cowboys player, it's just Corey telling me how I'm biased for liking a Cowboys player. I'm like, I never said Tolbert's a league-winning pick, but like in the 18th round, could you really do worse than a wide receiver 3 in a top 10 offense?
There's worse picks on the board, man.
Yeah, it's a ton for sure.
But what are you thinking here? We got some stuff to join. I will say I've already done the Corgi, I've done the Bulldog. So actually, I think that we're kind of just left with BBMs here.
That works for me. That works for me.
I will say something that I want to get in. There's only slows left. I was actually going to be like, man, maybe we should hop in one of these. Is these MMG leagues? Apparently, it's been very soft with MMG's like YouTube audience playing in here. So, man, I might do a little. Let me slap a little tenor in there in the slow draft queue.
Dude, I'm jealous, man. And the next time I go to Texas, I'm definitely going to be doing that. So if you guys are unfamiliar over on the Fantasy Stock Exchange, we actually have a Flock Fantasy meetup. If you guys aren't familiar with their work, we actually help create for the Flock Fantasy site. And we're just getting a bunch of us together, Austin, Texas. We'll meet up with a bunch of you guys. There's a lot more information going on in the Discord, but we're excited there. So my last batch of slow drafts that I'm going to be able to enter, or I mean, of course, I'm going to mix in some fast when I'm actually in a in a Texas area. But my last official slow drafts, I don't have to just spam my finger to join 50 drafts at a time.
I was saying that, dude. Anybody who joins them at volume, dude, like 150 slows to do manually is brutal. Like the fact that you can just click here is beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. I will say I was like, especially on your phone, dude, you're just spamming you got to join 50.
Dude, and then you're just like if you're not maxing it, you're just doing it off of vibes. You're like, that felt like 25, like
you're like counting in the back of your head. You're like, did I do 24 or 25 or maybe it was 26? Like, who knows,
I also want to say, anybody out there that's drafting with us, of course, you can use code RON, sign up to get on Underdog for the first time. Link in description, comment section, all of that. 6 people, we're waiting on people here. So if anyone wants to hop into a BBM with me and Danny, you can go right ahead.
Going up. Yes, sir. SoFlo says, hopefully I got in. Hopefully you do get in, brother.
You guys doing like a at this house? You guys doing you were saying a draft? Is it like are there gonna be fans at the house?
Yeah, so at the house, no specifically, but I know we're going to a brewery. I'll have to look at all the information and get that completely confirmed. But I just know that for the week of the 19th to 23rd is when we're planning to get the BNB, do the draft, and I'm just excited, man. I'm excited because we did our listener league last year. I was able to take that down, so I got to bring it up to the expert league.
Oh, we got Nikki in here.
Let's go. Oh, classic! I'm bringing my luck in here. With the 111.
Yeah, we got the 111.
Spicy.
You truly hate to see that.
Due diligence.
Especially because, let's see real quick. Let me move so just so we know, just so the audience can see where we're picking, I'm going to move I'll move myself here. All right, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I've gotten my fair share of 111s because when I go through my best ball exposure and see Jameer Gibbs and Marvin Harrison at about 20% owned, I know I'm not getting the luckiest.
I've actually been kind of lucky. Like I haven't been getting a lot of 101s, but I've avoided this back 10, 11, 12. But variance comes in all forms. We're here now. I do hate this spot, man. I'm not gonna sit here and I'm not gonna be like, oh, we're gonna be fine, whatever. It's a brutal spot.
I think Hayden had a really good take on this spot in the sense that if you have some more convictions about players that are going in the mid to late second area, knowing that the top of the second versus the late second isn't actually that big of a difference this year, to get cute with it. Because a lot of people are going to have the same combinations, but if you're getting people that are ranked 14th or I mean, we're actually picked 14, 17th and 21st off the board, and you're getting them at the 11 and 14. It's a way to get unique. Again, I'm not going to do it in every single draft, especially because I do like, for example, I mean, hopefully we don't get sniped, but a guy like Garrett Wilson there, Puka Nacua would be a guy that I still like there. Obviously, Jameer Gibbs, but especially for the second pick in particular, if you're not looking at a very appealing board, reaching down the board is nice. I mean, I was doing it with Nico Collins at the beginning of the summer, and obviously I was ADP is literally around that range. I was drafting him when his ADP was like 22, 23 overall. I was consistently being comfortable drafting him in the 14, 15, but unfortunately people wisened up to that.
Yeah, I have been Nico pilled myself where I was taking him at cost when he was in the 20s, but like I have like a batch of like 100 slows going on right now, and like I'm gonna be very curious to see what the exposures look like after they all finish up, but just from like the slow puppies and stuff. But pretty much anytime I'm on the clock in the second round and he's on the board, I've been taking him. Is kind of just where I'm at here. I moved him all the way up to wide receiver 9 at this point. So after your Garrett Wilson, Puka's gone. That's where I've had him just because the offense is going to be really good. He also just seems, I mean, he had a genuinely like really strong season last year as like a top 7, like a real life football type of like crazy 3+ yards per out run on like 300 routes. Still competed with Tank Dell. So yeah, I'm all over him.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I believe it was in June we did the like I can't stop drafting video, and well, I mean one of my guys was Nico Collins, and like you said, he was 4th or tied for 4th with Justin Jefferson PFF receiving grade. Obviously the reception perception.
I will say I hate to cut you off, but we are on the clock. We have Wilson or Gibbs here.
Garrett.
I'm cool with either.
I like Garrett here specifically because I like Garrett Wilson here, but I will say. I'm not sure if you noticed this in recent rooms in like the last week and a half, because we did do a stream this past week. The casuals are starting to float in, man. If you do get a running back or two by like round 7 or 8, it starts getting ugly, man. Like, same thing with the quarterback position. I don't know. This one is like, am I seeing Trevor Lawrence go in like the 9th, 10th round because like 20 quarterbacks are off the board in the first 105 picks?
Yeah, what's going on? I got locked out the other day, bro. All right, he leaves Gibbs back to us. I think that this has to be Gibbs.
Yeah,
this is best case scenario at the back half. This is what I've been saying of like if you can get 2 of Puka, Wilson, Gibbs, and if you're lucky enough Brown, that makes up for it because there is like a big tier break to your JT, Saquon, Marv, London, whatever.
I agree. Now, I will say I would have Marv in that tier again. Like that was the one guy that I am a little bit different on you then because you mentioned you had Nico wide receiver 9. I still do have Marv as my wide receiver 9. Like I understand there is a factor like, oh, we don't want to put the cart before the horse when it comes to a rookie wide receiver. But other than him being a rookie, what is the actual downside to a situation other than him being a rookie?
I'm only concerned with just how run heavy this offense is going to be. Like it's going to be, what is it? Petzing ran the ball a ton last year. You have McBride there. I don't know. I think that he's going to be fine if that makes sense. I think he'll be fine. Like I'm still drafting Marv, but it just doesn't feel super comfy, Like to me, he's in the same tier as the rest, which is like this. To be fair, like Nico's in that same tier as well. Of just guys that you draft. Like I don't know if you agree with this. Like I do kind of believe in the vibe aspect of fantasy football. Of like if I draft a guy that sits in my wide receiver 1 spot, I'd like him to be cozy. I'd like that to be like I'm not saying Brown, your wide receiver 1 spot feels good. But any of these like Marv, London, Olave, if they're in my wide receiver 1 spot, like it does just feel, I don't know. It feels like a lot. It doesn't feel great. I'd rather if he's my wide receiver 2, I'd feel great. But
yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean on that. With Marv, for me, again, going back to the volume point, I also think that had more so to do with Kyler coming off of the injury, with them not really having a big overall weapons group. Like we have a couple, names there specifically, but not necessarily any true alpha number 1 wide receiver. Not to mention with Trey McBride, I think him being able to open up the offense in the middle of the field. Now you have a wide receiver that, I mean, talent-wise, again, we'll see if he's able to do it in his rookie season because we typically don't see a rookie receiver, just go ballistic. But that was kind of a past frame of mind because the last 3 years, we've basically seen wide receivers break the single record every single year. So it's like, I understand that we're already doing it because we were never taking Chase, we're never taking Jefferson, we're never taking Puka the way we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. in current ADP. But it's like, if he lives up to what we all think he will be in the NFL, like, why can't he do it in year 1? And like, honest to God, he looked like he could have been an NFL player last year at Ohio State, and a very, very damn good one.
With Kyle McCord at QB, which is hilarious that he refuses. I think that they played on the same high school team. It was hilarious. Like he wouldn't talk bad about him on Hard Knocks. They were like, "Well, is this quarterback?" He's like, "Oh, I just do whatever I can." That's a boomer take of mine. Is I feel like Marv he's not mean enough, but like obviously I'm still drafting him. I still think he's a great player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could be at like 12 to 15% Marv, but I'm flirting with 8 is kind of where I'm at on him. Just I'm mixing him in with like London, Nico. I've been taking a lot of Nico, like I said. But yeah, I definitely, I obviously get it. He's amazing. Trying to see if anything weird has happened here, but not really. I mean, Achan in the middle of the second.
The one I
No.
will say that I've been increasingly wanting to challenge the market on is why are we so convicted with Stephon Diggs over Tank Dell? Genuinely.
That's a good shout. I have them back to back, but you are right. The market has I think on Underdog the gap is as close as it can get, but your home league sites, your ESPNs, even like FFPC and FFC, like you're looking at like a round and a half difference between Dell and Diggs. I do agree it should be closer. I have come around like Dynasty season. I was kind of like, man, Diggs might be washed. You want to go Dell here?
I'm cool with Dell here. I'm cool with Dell. So going back to that, I actually did end up making the switch because recently on the channel we did what our first 3 rounds look like and basically challenging ADP, kind of saying like, okay, like not just going about the consensus flow of what's going on right now, but more so like what should the top 36 look like? And going through it for me, recently I ended up looking at Tank Dell, what he was able to do last year, the efficiency metrics, and what I was able to see from Stephon Diggs in terms of yards per route run down the second half of the year. He was still getting a big time target share from Josh Allen, but to put it simply, man, he just wasn't playing well at all. Like if I believe he's at like a 1.3 yards per route run average in the second half of the season. So I don't know. I just feel like the market's not really baking that in enough that Tank Dell's an ascending player. Stephon Diggs may be a depreciating player at this point, but I'll let you make this pick. I like Pacheco. I also like T. Higgins if you want to get a wide receiver and stay ahead of the curve. I also don't mind Laporta because we have Gibbs. I'll let you make the call.
Let's do Pacheco. I know he's your guy. I've been trying to draft him actually a lot more. Just because I do feel, and I actually don't mind the T shout there, but I do think, I don't know, as long as this isn't too crazy of a room, I think we'll be all right at receiver. And I have been making like this turn pick. I have been making detours. I like the Pacheco shout. I've cooled off on like I've kind of been of the idea of like Laporte makes it into the 4th. I've been drafting him, but we're going to have our choice at this next turn of Pitts or Kittle, which I don't know. It's like, you could take Laporta early or Pitts, and I get they're separate tiers for a reason, but they still feel good as onesies. But I've been taking stabs at Pacheco. I've been taking stabs to it like Josh Allen, Hurts, those type of guys.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you did mention the Laporta 3rd round does feel a little bit steep because, I mean, going through the year, anytime we've seen a tight end be valued as a top 3 round pick, you have to basically say with certainty that he projects to be the tight end 1 or tight end 2. And to be honest, man, you stack him side by side with Travis Kelce. Like the market was so consistent on Laporta over Kelce for the longest time. And I mean, you guys know, watching both of our channels, how ageist we are amongst older players. But like Travis Kelce just came off a season where he was averaging more points per game. In the year that Mahomes quite literally had the biggest outlier of passing touchdown seasons. He had 27 passing touchdowns this year. And we saw Travis Kelce consistently be a 8-9 plus touchdown type of guy. We did see the touchdowns fall off last year. And he still outscored Sam Laporta. So it's like, what's more plausible to me? Laporta, who, when both running backs were healthy, actually only averaged 13.2 PPR points per game, or Travis Kelce in a year that Mahomes bounces back in terms of the touchdown efficiency, and he's more so closer to the 35, 38 range like he's always been throughout his career. Like his line on Underdog right now, Mahomes, 34.5 passing touchdowns. He played 17 games last year and hit 27. Like, we're expecting a big time increase in terms of the overall efficiency of this offense. And I mean, Travis Kelce is still the number 1, number 2, number 3 look on that team. Even as much as I like those wide receivers, as much as I think Isaiah Pacheco down the stretch last year became a workhorse running back, Travis Kelce to me is just the clear cut answer to this offense.
Yeah, I like that call. I think at the very least, like if you were to do like betting odds on who to finish as the tight end 1, it wouldn't be Laporta at like minus 250, It would be like plus 200 at like, I think that's probably a fair price. Like I think Andrews has a case. I think McBride has a case. Like it's it's a very weird year though, because like we were taking Kelsey at what? Like we were taking Kelsey at the 1-2 turn last year, I think. I could be wrong. And now
Top
all
7,
of
he went
the
in a lot of my leagues. Top
yeah,
7.
and now tight end is all pushed back to like the 3rd, 4th rounds. You could certainly make the case of like, man, all these tight ends feel underpriced in general. But I think it is kind of a supply and demand thing where we have like 4 legit top guys now and they all fall because you don't want to be. It just doesn't feel cozy to be the first one to take him. Like you kind of want the tight end 2 or tight end 3 in your draft room. Like so, I'm open to the idea that they're all kind of mispriced. But yeah, I agree. Like I don't see the point in taking Laporta that high. Brock says Pitts or Kittle don't have tight end 1 upside. I am kind of on the side that I think Pitts could finish as a tight end 1 overall. I think Kittle's a little bit tough at this age and
Kittle's
hard
tough.
competition, but I think you could definitely see it with Pitts, just with the ADOT being a top 2 target in that offense. If they really air it out, I was listening to shout out Gretchen Leone. They had a projection show, and they're kind of talking through not only is like the overall passing volume going up just from tendencies, but you had a lot of Desmond Ridder throws that were obviously off target and then also thrown away and then like also scrambles. So on top of the tendency, you're adding like quarterback tendency and efficiency on top of that. So there's going to be a lot to go around. And if Pitts is out there and does what he did as like a rookie or his second year, we see touchdowns, like he could absolutely be the number 1 guy.
And he does feel oddly insulated compared to what his profile would suggest. Again, people will look at his profile and think automatically, oh my God, like Kyle Pitts, he's been unreliable last couple of years, always banged up, always injured. But if he's fully healthy from a player standpoint, name a more insulated situation than a Zach Robinson-led offense with potentially a healthy Kirk Cousins at quarterback. And even if Kirk Cousins is banged up throughout the year, 36-year-old coming off an Achilles, having a top 10 overall selected quarterback as your backup. Like whether it's Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix Jr., you're getting the best quarterback of Kyle Pitts' career.
Do you have a lean here?
Wide receiver. I don't mind Rice. We do have Casey.
Yeah, that was my call as well. And then I'd be kind of down for Kittle, assuming this guy has 1 tight end, he passes on Kittle, but I could be talked into a Godwin or a Worthy or whatever.
I mean, yeah, one of those 2. Worthy does go. My 2 spots would probably be Kittle or Dunze, but whatever. I've been making a couple of picks here. Whatever you want to go.
I think I like Kittle just for the Detroit correlation, I believe, is
right.
there.
Good call.
Yeah, so we'll get that. And Kittle, and if you want to make the case of like week 17 correlation, like the thing that is great about Kittle is like he might not have tight end 1 overall upside, but in any given week, he has tight end 1 overall upside by like 15 points,
Yeah, and not to mention, Corey made this case for potentially being higher on Ayuk, being higher on the 49ers as a whole. But, I mean, they were a historically low passing volume team last year. Like, even if third-year Brock Purdy, they eventually, maybe Christian McCaffrey isn't the same Iron Man he was this year, we could see more volume in that overall San Francisco situation. Again, I still think if everyone's healthy, they're probably going to be a bottom 5 overall volume offense, but there's a big difference between being the 5th lowest volume and the least volume, in the league, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we could see a little bit of renaissance.
You would hope. It's such a weird conundrum with the Niners that it's so consolidated, but it's low volume, it's run heavy, but you bet on the passing offense just because the touchdowns and yards are going to get there somehow.
Exactly. It's the best weapon set in the league. It's like, yeah, sure. When you're in a default, lineup type of league with your buddies, is it a little bit annoying when you're not getting that week-to-week consistency of your guys? Sure. But especially when we're in a best ball, man, like give me the guys that can be the wide receiver 1 overall in the week. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, not much to be said. He has absolute RB1 overall in the week ceiling. And like you said with George Kittle, even if he's not a 130 target tight end, even on 90 to 105 targets, the big play potential, the touchdown equity in this offense. Again, Brock Purdy is one of those quarterbacks where if he went over 30 passing touchdowns, that would almost be the expectation rather than an outlier year, especially based on last year. So I'm excited.
What do they start beating the piss out of everyone? We'll see. It's tough. Regular season, I don't know. You would know more about the defensive side of the ball, but
Well, I mean, last year there was just games where they're up 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. I mean, I still remember, I believe it was the Steelers in week 1. They were up like 30-0 in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Is that not what the score was or something?
No, I think you're right. The only games I can remember that were close was Cleveland. That's like it.
Yeah.
They obviously
won 30-7.
30-7, yeah. They were killing even good teams. Like they beat the hell out of the Cowboys, but they also beat the piss out of the Eagles. They beat the hell out of I think the Dolphins maybe too. I can't remember, but it's crazy.
Nah, man, like they're such a well-functioning unit. I understand that, but at the same time, it's hard to just blow out your NFL competition every week. And if they do it a second year in a row, like we're probably looking at one of the best rosters that has never won a Super Bowl yet. I mean, if I were to make a pick this year, like they would absolutely be one of the 3 teams that I would put in that range. And it's tough because it's like they are, to me, such a lock to make the NFC Championship. And the only team I think that can truly knock them off in the NFC is if Jordan Love does take that step. Those weapons do take the step in Green Bay. That would be my bet as the second highest ceiling in the NFC and a potential team that can knock them off, because we saw Jordan Love play a bad playoff game in that divisional round and they barely lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Like
we're talking about comeback.
Yeah. So,
the floor is underrated, man. The floor. I mean, I think he had that one weird field goal. I know the part of my take guys at Barstool have given him shit about it, for kicking a field goal or whatever. Oh, yeah. All right, so we're gonna be on the clock here. We have, I don't know. I mean, I guess we got running backs here. If you're a Curtis Samuel guy, that's there.
A guy that's not at the top here, but I do like is Jonathan Brooks, given the room that we have. But where's his ADP? At 90.3?
Yeah, we could take a stab at. You want to go Ramondre on this one and see what comes back to us? All right,
go with it.
I've been liking Ramondre. I think that there is some upside in the offense. If May is better than we think. Van Pelt seems better at least than what we've had in New England in years past. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we could go. I'd say up to you. We could go Brooks. We could go. I'm not the biggest Samuel guy, but I wouldn't hate a wide receiver pick here. But wide receiver is just dry as hell.
Don't worry, by the way, Spicy. We do have Kittle, so you can have your Ferguson. Yeah, it's weird because I mean, it sounds gross to have 4 running backs and 3 wide receivers in this range, but we could also just hyper fragile this thing, get those 4 running backs.
Yeah, I'd be open to it
because it's is Curtis Samuel Brooks? That much better? Yeah, I like Brooks here. But realistically, is Curtis Samuel that much better than the wide receivers that are going to be available in the next round?
Nah, and he got taken. All right, yeah, let's go Brooks.
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll go Brooks, and we'll end up with either 4 or 5 running backs there.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, okay, what correlations can we make here? Because again, we're gonna have to catch up at least 1 quarterback and then just wide receivers at least in rounds 9 to 14 probably. So
yeah,
we'll take a look.
In terms of QBs and stuff, we have May, Young, Goff,
Rodgers.
You can go other side of KC would be Pittsburgh,
Purdy,
San Fran. Yeah, we got options.
So we do have options. But the vote would be if one of them fall back, we probably pair them with a wide receiver. But yeah let's we'll see. Yeah, I need to meet up with the lads in Austin since I do live here. Let's go. I need to reach out to see y'all plans. Have work until 7 p.m. that draft night. Shaking my head. Yeah, no, there'll be more information provided to the meetup as the weeks come up. Again, we'll keep it updated in the group chat. We've been kind of figuring it out, all the little details, but I'm excited to meet a bunch of you guys.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. And Lita, it's not a question of who can definitely win the NFC. It's more so if I had to make a bet to knock off the Niners, my vote would be the Packers having the highest ceiling. Again, they have a little bit of volatility because it's we still don't know if they have a number 1 overall wide receiver or if they have a bunch of 2s and 3s. We don't know. Again, the market doesn't know if Jordan Love is going to consistently be a top 5 to 8 level quarterback or if that was more so a 8-game stretch down the end of the year. There's a lot more uncertainty in the market right now with the Packers, but I personally view if they do hit their ceilings, if let's just say Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, I don't think Romeo Dubs will do it, but I mean, throw him in there as well. If one of them truly develops into a number 1 wide receiver and Jordan Love is the type of quarterback that I think can take you over the top, they absolutely can knock off the Niners in a 1-game setting.
I'm curious, where are you at on Kendrick Miller? In my slow drafts, I just snagged him. I mean, his ADP is we can check here. His ADP is 163. I've seen him in the 180s so far today, 190s in slow drafts. I'm curious. I don't know how you felt about him pre-draft. I'm not sure how you felt about him going into this year. You have Dennis Allen saying he's, just living in the training room, can't get on the field. Where are we at in Kendra?
So let me check my overall rostership of him to get a full display of how much I've been not drafting him. Andre Miller, 2.8% drafted, and it's been
Yeah,
nice
I
seeing
haven't
his
been
ADP
drafting him
drop
at
as
his
much.
old price. His new price is somewhat interesting to me. If he's in like the 180s, like, fine, whatever. But yeah, not
Yeah,
great.
no, I agree with that. Um, I mean, good for us that all the running backs, actually not the quarterbacks, but the tight ends are going off the board here. Hopefully, wide receiver and a quarterback can fall back to us.
Yeah, tight ends, running backs are going here. Were you high on Kendrick coming out of school? I remember people were interested in him. You had Zach Evans in that backfield, day 2 draft capital.
He was interesting. Now the thing is, obviously, similar. I had him in a similar range to a guy like Tank Bigsby. The
Yeah,
problem though is that with both those guys specifically, A, when they got the opportunity, they didn't look that great, and B, the availability just wasn't there in their rookie years. I've been a proponent again. It's funny that I'm linking it back to Tank Bigsby because obviously they are different running backs, but I really do have a similar thought that yeah, I understand there's opportunity for them to get volume potentially, especially, Tank Bigsby. They said, oh, we want to, give ETM breathers. Or with the Saints, it's like, oh, well, Kamara's an older running back. We want to feed another young running back. But at the same time, you got to be good enough there in those reps still. And I'm just not sold at this point after their rookie seasons that they are strong NFL backs.
yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I also I don't know, I'm not that crazy about the offense in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Kubiak's interesting, but that's really the only thing to be somewhat excited about. I feel like I maybe saw a rankings video where you and Bush, you guys, some people are full on fading Kamara. It seems like you're not. He's not like the sexiest pick of all time, but he's
No.
not a terrible pick, especially where he's at on underdog.
Yeah, I mean, once you get to the 6th, 7th round, I think it's a reasonable price. The only issue is that, especially in a lot of your home leagues, he's going to go in the 4th or 5th round just based off name recognition alone. So that is the issue with him. But again, in depressed running back rooms like underdog, it's a lot more stomachable of a pick, knowing that he will get volume, assuming he's healthy. So
You
I'm
want to
cool with it.
go QB? You got Lockett, you got Wicks, we got Purdy,
Yeah, we
Caleb.
definitely need Purdy. Should we go with a wide receiver? I'll let you make the pick at the wide receiver and then see what quarterback falls between Purdy and Jaden.
Let's do. Man, I can't stop taking
Wicks,
Wicks. We're
maybe?
reaching on Wicks
Go
here,
with
but
it.
we're taking him.
He's not falling back to us, so I don't mind
Yeah,
that.
no shot. We'll see what
Plus,
this
like,
guy does. Should have maybe checked if he had a San Fran, but I think we'll be all right.
yeah, we should be okay. Hopefully Purdy can fall. That'd be nice.
And if not, I mean, I don't know.
I'm good
I've
with
kind
Jaden.
of. I was drafting a lot of Lockett early on. I won't sit here and lie, but I've 100% cooled off on that.
Same.
He feels good in best ball, and he's in a spot here, like the spot we're in right now, where you need a wide receiver and it's 10th round. Fine, take him. But there's a chance that he's just absolute dust and sucks. There is a chance though that he's like next year's stealing. We'll truly see about that. But he's
I have
not
a
a
hard
profile you
time
want to be
seeing it.
building things around. So we're saying Purdy here. I'd be down.
Yeah, let's do a Purdy. Get that quarterback. Otherwise, we're gonna get locked out now in these rooms.
Oh yeah. I was saying the other day I had, or no, it was literally yesterday. I was doing a draft. It was actually like a cardio club draft, maybe 2 days ago. And I got completely locked out, dude. I set up individually Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, and Bo Nix, and they were all gone by round 17. And I ended up with a uncorrelated JJ McCarthy. So that team is dead. We'll see.
Ask Spicy Hot just how gross our running back and quarterback rooms were in the 2 drafts we did this week. We did the Corgi and what were the 2 1 single entry ones? The Corgi and then there
Might be
was
a Pitbull, but I don't know.
there was a $75 one and the $5 one. That's
Yeah,
what we did on
the
stream.
both were single entry.
Yeah, and let's just say we got locked out pretty bad in those draft. Yeah, Corgi and Bulldog.
Oh yeah,
But
Bulldog.
you mentioned with Lockett, by the way, and I completely agree with you. He was a guy that at the beginning of the summer, you're like, well, you know what? He's been solid in the last couple of years. Offense should be better this year. Obviously, Ryan Grubb coming in, more deep field type of offense. Obviously, we saw at Washington last year. I actually have the stat. They were, as per Hayden Winks, 8th in pass rate and 4th in deep pass rate in the entirety of the college football landscape. The issue that I have with Lockett is that he's just regressed as a player each of the last few years. We're talking about a guy that in 2021, 2.35 yards per route run. 2 years ago, 1.89. And then last year, he was at 1.61 yards per route run. It's kind of coming to me now that with Lockett, what's the big difference between him and Brandon Cooks?
It's a good question. It's a good
I mean,
question.
it's what
I
it
got
comes back
nothing.
to.
Like they're
Yeah.
I imagine Cooks is like younger. Cooks is like one of those guys who's like shockingly not even like 30. I mean, he might be like 30 on the dot now.
He's I think they
Yeah, he's 30
were
on the dot.
yeah, like I know Lockett was what a senior when he committed, so he's probably going to be around the same age range, maybe a couple years older. But I mean, regardless, even if your difference, like 1.61 yards per route run from Lockett versus 1.3 or whatever Cooks was at, like Lockett was a better player last year, but we're also talking about the fact that the offensive insulation of the Cowboys versus the Seahawks. We're also talking about that Brandon Cooks was injured at the whole mid portion of the year. It kind of felt like he was always battling through injuries. Once he actually came back onto the field, I think he scored 8 touchdowns last year, Brandon Cooks.
Yeah,
So
that wouldn't shock me. It was first season under 1,000 receiving yards for Lockett since 2018 as well. Just like everything kind of declining. I personally kind of think that he's going to step aside for JSN at this point, and we'll just see Lockett be like kind of like part-time ish. You also like. I mean, it doesn't matter because it hasn't mattered for the past few years, but you just get zero efficiency. I know, his ADOT's declining as well, but like also you're just getting zero yak from Lockett. Like he's at this point in his career, he's not making a single dude miss. He's literally pressing X to slide when he catches the ball.
he's a
Which is
possession
great.
receiver at this point, like
Yeah.
straight up. Like blink now and you'll look at less volume Hunter Renfro.
Yeah, it's
Which is
not
sad,
great.
but
All right, so we're up in 2 spots here.
Polk.
We got some interesting upside options at wide receiver. I've been taking a lot of Freiermuth, but I don't think we have the luxury to take a detour from receiver.
I agree.
None of these quarterbacks really correlate to anything.
We have Ramondre, so if we go Polk, we can backdoor the Drake May.
Yep, that's a good call as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think definitely he makes the most sense. Then at that next pick, you could talk me into a couple of different guys. All right, perfect. So let's go Polk.
Yeah.
You could talk me into Herbert here on the other side of that New England game. You could talk me into Downs or Leggett. He's been saying it Leggett, so I'm trying to say that myself now. So yeah,
do we have the
receiver.
luxury of taking? Do we have a luxury of taking another quarterback here, knowing that we're kind of behind the 8-ball wide receiver?
Potentially. I mean, what are we going to end up with? Like a 3, probably 2 or 3. Yeah, we probably want to take a receiver here now that my vote would be Leggett.
You don't have to convince me on taking Xavier. You know how high I am on my boy.
Oh yeah, you guys have loved him since dynasty drafts. I mean, I have him in a couple dynasty leagues. I've just kind of bet of the idea of like, all right, he went first round, he tested well, and he had an actual peak season, which is like, if you're gonna be a bad prospect, give me something, give me a peak season that looked good, and he had a great season. It looks like he's been a standout so far. So he's a guy I want to bet on for sure in redraft, especially. I mean, you're getting him like the 12th round.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, Big Lenny
capital.
is this the dude who told everyone to draft Paris Campbell? Were you a Paris Campbell guy, or was I the Paris Campbell?
I was not a Paris Campbell guy.
I was not at all. So like,
come on, Big Lenny. No, I've never once in my life touted Paris Campbell.
Yeah, no, that is not ideal.
So. Yeah, no, I've never. No, come on now. Then we got a super chat. Got the 108 in my 12-team home league. Better team to build around. Better team to build with a round 1 wide receiver, running back, Jefferson Chase or Breece Bijan at the 108. At the 108, man, if you get in a home league, man, if you get blessed with a Breece or Bijan at 108, I think I probably would. I'm actually curious. This is a good conversation, Danny, with how you're kind of treating best ball versus redraft home leagues. I've recently, like, if I'm gonna redraft home league or a managed league, I think I'm fine with either running back after Tyreek and CeeDee. Like once you're talking like 105, I think that's when I switch to the running back, just because you're going to get. I mean, I was looking at some like home league ADP. You have like Tank Dell in round 5. You have like Nico Collins falling to the 3rd. You have London falling to the 3rd. So I'm curious, how wide receiver heavy are you? And if you're in a home league like this, I wish we knew if it was half or full PPR. And kind of, if you could, Colin, if you could hit us with if it's half or full, and then what the starting lineup is, and then what's the starting lineup? Yeah, I agree. If it's half, definitely running back. But where are you at on that kind of dichotomy? Because it's like, man, like Jefferson's like maybe the best receiver in the league. Doesn't feel great passing on him. So how are you playing that?
So my best way to approach this is just look at your draft history in your league and kind of see how running backs are valued. Get that real feel for exactly how your league values the running back market as a whole. Because I'll tell you what, like home leagues have adapted, man. Like even in my home league last year, like we had people going 3-4 wide receivers off the rip. Now, obviously that's not common, but at the same time, you should have to do that due diligence to kind of see what your league market's at. So if you know you're in a league that inherently values running backs, that at least 4 running backs are going to be going in the first round and possibly 10 by round 2, then at that point, I do agree with you, especially like going through some sleeper mocks that grabbing a running back at 4, 5, 6, whether it's Brees or Bijan, have kind of lended me to better builds simply because guys like Nico Collins and Brandon Ayuk fall to the end of the second round. So it really just depends what you think the complexion of your league draft can look like. Again, you're going to know a lot of the league mates in your league, what their tendencies are. Do they love going 3 running backs in the first 4 picks? Do they love just smashing wide receiver values? Picking up on those tendencies will help you make the best determination for what your first round pick will be. Because again, mocks can only do so much. You can explore with your team, experiment with your team, what a Brees at 105 build or what a Jefferson at 105 build would look like. But I would say the more depictive the more depictive point would be what exactly your team or your league valuations are kind of at. So again, if you know what your league dynamic is, if you know how your league mates kind of behave, you can make that determination right away. So for example, again, if you think that Nico Collins, Brandon Ayuk aren't going to fall to you at the end of the second round, it's hard for me to push the trigger at 105 on anything but a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I do want to circle back to that after our pick here. We got QJ if you want him. You got I've actually been taking some Rashad Bateman as much as I hate to raise my hand and say that. You got Hunter Henry if you want to keep going to New England stuff.
Yeah,
we could just go Rodgers and kind of but this guy has 2 quarterbacks, so would you be fine? I'd be kind of fine passing on receiver at this turn if you want to go tight end and then quarterback here probably.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
So we'll go Henry.
I'm ashamed to admit how much Hunter Henry I have.
Yeah, I've been taking him as well, man. He could lead the Patriots in targets, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. I mean, albeit maybe that looks like 50 for like 705, but hold on. So what do we think? We think Rodgers. I'd be fine with Bateman. Like we can play the game and see if like somebody who, because I have seen that before where like Rodgers will be 15 picks past ADP. It kind of depends on how much you think we're behind at receiver and if you like Rashad or even Wan'Dale Robinson could get a shout if you want to set up. Oh, okay, psych.
No,
so
half PPR Wan'Dale was not in my cards anyways. We're good. I'm cool with pushing it if you want to, grabbing a receiver here and then kind of
let's try that because I'm on Bateman again. I hate to say it. I have the disease. I have the sickness. I don't know. It's a 14th round Rashad Bateman, man. What are you gonna do about it? But what I was gonna say with the home league guy, last kind of note on that super chat is if you're picking at the 108, I think the board might just choose that for you. Like at the 108, I'm trying to think through. Yeah, like the 108.
Oh, he's 108. I thought he said 105. Yeah. Okay. So 108. Absolutely.
It's gonna just decide that for you. You're gonna have the last of this McCaffrey, Lamb, Tyreek, Bijan, Chase. Unless maybe you'll have like 2. Like maybe you'll have a Jefferson versus Brees debate, or I don't know. Like I think that's probably still even wishful thinking. I'd kind of be shocked if Brees or Bijan made it back to you in a 12-team home league, at 108. And I almost think if they did make it back to you, I think you probably just have to take one. So yeah, at the 108, just kind of you kind of just want to play your board there. But the 108 is probably one of the better spots to pick this year, just because you can just have whoever falls here, and especially in a home league, whatever makes it back to you here. I've been seeing like screenshots in FFPC leagues where a Gibbs will make it back here. Like a stray Garrett Wilson or Puka makes it back here. People do weird things, so yeah, definitely just kind of that is something that you don't want to get lost on the whole idea of like, should I go wide receiver, running back? At the end of the day, you kind of just want to take the best value on the board.
Yeah, like in home leagues specifically, like an underdog, I am more than comfortable going 2-3 wide receivers off the rip. In home leagues, though, knowing that I'm going to be able to get wide receiver value later in most leagues, I kind of have to go with a hero RB approach. Or because it's tough. Like if you don't get a running back in home leagues that projects as a legitimate RB1, then your life chasing each range in the rounds 3 to 8 range and looking at it and saying, okay, well, do I want to take Josh Jacobs over potentially? I mean, if we scroll, I like Josh Jacobs for the record, but Josh Jacobs over, if we scroll up at wide receiver, like in home leagues, here, scroll up.
What? Oh, here, my bad.
Just looking at, yeah, you're good. Like I can see in home leagues potentially. I mean, I don't know how wishful it is, but Josh Jacobs is going to be an early 3rd round pick. You might have to make a decision between Josh Jacobs and DJ Moore.
Yeah.
At that point.
To that point, you have to go DJ Moore. Like ESPN ADP has Pacheco, Derrick Henry, and Kyron all in the mid to early second. So like it's crazy. It's crazy. You have to kind of think through that. I do think like the most important thing is like knowing what site you're drafting on, the tendencies of your league mates. Because like there is definitely an aspect of getting too cute where if you just keep taking the best like value available, like you can find yourself with like 3 receivers that won't even make your lineup, and you haven't taken your RB1 is like Blake Corum, and like all of a sudden you're fucked. Like that's 100% an outcome that you don't want.
For sure. Shout out Nevin. Danny is a yapper. It's the Italian in me, brother. I love to yap.
But what else was I gonna ask you, man? I had something I wanted to pick your brain on, but I can't remember. What from like early camp are we actually taking as real? Because I got some pushback and I was like, Javon Baker. The drum beat's loud on Javon Baker. I was tweeting about it this morning. I hate to take beat reports like into actual seriousness and validate them, but the drum beat gets loud.
I mean, I saw you got into it with someone who's like, there's like 6 or 7 receivers better than him on New England. I actually was about to respond. So if you guys are unfamiliar, I don't know how I'm talking as much as I am, considering I literally have a fever right now. But I did have to relax today after I did my work earlier because I mean I was just feeling like garbage. But right before I actually because I took a little bit of a nap right before that happened, I was gonna respond. I'm like, I'm sure freaking KJ Osborne and Juju Smith-Schuster are ahead of Javon Baker at the picking order. Like that guy said 6 or 7, really?
Yeah,
if
and
you want to
he
say
immediately backpedaled too,
right
which is hilarious. Of just like I came over to the top, and then he immediately was like, "Oh well, you guys are making some good points in the comments." It's just very funny. People, that's one of the things I can't stand about fantasy, and like definitely when I was first even like on Twitter doing it, like just like the smug of just like thinking that you know everything that's going to happen. It's like, dude, like random things happen. Puka Nacua was a nobody 5th round pick from BYU, and he killed it last year. I don't see anything that particularly stands out here. We can go a receiver. I don't think any of these quarterbacks really correlate for us. Do you see anything that sticks out?
Okay, I'm trying to think. Miami.
We could take a falling Deshaun and just kind of figure it out later.
Let's do it. Yeah, this is a 20. What was this? 23 picks after ADP. I'll take that.
I don't think. Yeah, we don't have any correlation with him, but we'll figure it out. I'm trying to think. Like I don't know. There's gonna be Elijah Moore.
Elijah's a decent 18th rounder, man. I'm telling you.
No, not a bad one at all. You have Foreman, and then you also have on the other side like Odell. You can take late. Yeah. All right, so we'll be good there.
Are we committing to the 4 running back build, by the way? Because I think we pretty much have to, right?
What 3, 4? Yeah, we probably have to.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm thinking. What do you think, McMillan here?
McMillan works for me. We do have Leggett at week 17.
All right, perfect. That actually works well.
Yes, sir.
Because then we're gonna end up with like a 3-4-9-2. I think that would make sense here.
Yeah, I think
this last quarterback is open for New England or Carolina.
Yes, sir. So people are asking in the comments right now, why would I take AJ Brown 109 with someone with the bigger ceiling like Wilson or Puka, or am I off base there? A couple of people are agreeing, disagreeing overall. AJ Brown was a guy at the beginning of the offseason I wanted to, drop to my 112, to my 202. He was a guy that I'm like, well, the overall passing volume in Philadelphia just simply wasn't there. But at the same time, when you look at just how dominant he was last year, so in the splits of the games that he played, let me pull this up for you. I actually did a full true series. So I looked through contextual patterns of a player's season, kind of determine what we can look at there. And with AJ Brown in the games before the Eagles kind of collapsed. So we know them, 10-1 star, look like the best team in the league, potentially. Like everybody's talking about how they're just winning all these games. In that stretch, AJ Brown not only was a stud wide receiver, like he was flat out the most dominant receiver in the league, and he was playing next to Devontae Smith. If you look at his actual market share totals, so if I'm looking right here, so he had a 29.98% average target share in that stretch. So the way I did it on the CGLs was basically week by week. I kind of took their target shares, I kind of took their yards per route run, and kind of found the aggregate for what their average week would look like. In that stretch, 29.98 target percentage, 20.00 PPR points per game, which would have been the wide receiver 6, 2.567 yards per route run. But the main teller for me, if you took his receiving yards market share in that stretch, could you guess just how dominant he was in terms of receiving yards market share with Devontae Smith on the field?
I just remember the Washington game. He went crazy.
45.8% receiving yards market share.
God damn.
45.8. Like we're talking about like legitimately the receivers like at that par being like CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill. Like those are the two guys. So like when you're talking about just pure on-field talent, like I think AJ Brown is a pretty consensus top 5 overall receiver in the league. You can make the case again. I would have personally Tyreek, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb as the top 3, but I think the debate also starts at 3 to 5 in the sense that which order do you have Lamb, Chase, and AJ Brown? And honestly, the way I'm looking at it, man, I think it goes Lamb, Brown, and Chase in that order. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. Like I tweeted about this like a couple weeks ago. Like his career yards per out run would be like a top 5 season in any given year. Like it's genuinely ridiculous. And then you can kind of buy into the idea of Kellen Moore coming in. Like last year, their offense was just brutal. You had Jalen Hurts down the stretch hurt with something that he wouldn't tell people about. And Kellen Moore, they're going to be better. Like Brian Johnson was pretty brutal for them as a play caller. I can't remember if he got fired towards the end, but they started like hiring more people to like help out with like play calling, and the Eagles were just kind of a mess. Like remember down the stretch, they were like after that Niners game, they almost did the opposite of the Cowboys. How the Cowboys were like, screw this, we're gonna get better. They got worse and then lost to the Bucks in the first round. People forgot like how like they genuinely collapsed the Eagles last year.
Like people will talk about how the Cowboys collapsed because they lost to the 7 seed as the home playoff game. And again, I'm not here to say that the Cowboys didn't absolutely choke in the playoffs last year, but I honestly view facing a red hot Jordan Love in a game where your defense allows 6 touchdowns in the first 7 drives. That is more of a, oh my God, what the fuck happened? Rather than we could have seen this happening for the Cowboys, to be honest. Because with the Eagles, it's like there were signs that they just weren't playing good football, and then they just got blasted against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that wild card round. With the Cowboys, it's like
Bryce Young here.
Yeah, I'm perfectly cool with that. But with the Cowboys, it was almost more unpredictable. Obviously, again, people would be saying, hey, like, of course the Cowboys were predictable. They're the Cowboys. Of course they're going to blow that playoff game. But you're looking at the overall season of those teams. You're looking at how the Cowboys were playing, especially in the last couple of games going into that wildcard weekend. Nobody picked the Green Bay Packers in that game. Keep in mind, people did pick Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
So...
do you want to do Elijah Moore here?
I'm cool with it.
We can do Elijah Moore. I don't know if you have a hard out. Like I'm open to starting another one. I'd say up to you.
I'm cool with it. Hey,
all right, but let's run up because dude, I got to be honest. I'm trying to get my BBMs are lacking. I'll just put it that way. They are lacking for the time of the year that we're in right now. Sure. And I cannot find my way back to the draft board. So everybody just lock in here.
Going back to that stat I was giving, by the way. So CeeDee Lamb in weeks 8 on, once the Cowboys really found their identity. I mean, I don't have to talk about the 27.8 PPR points per game or the 32.05% target share he was able to get. Everybody knows how good Lamb was, but even with CeeDee Lamb being as dominant as he was, now for what it's worth, the Cowboys passing offense as a whole just simply had more volume than the Eagles, but even he was at a 40% receiving yards market share. The only receiver in the league that was close to A.J. Brown's stretch before the Eagles collapsed was Tyreek Hill, who was at a 42.47. We're talking about A.J. Brown, who had over 45% with Devontae Smith on the field. Like, that is just absurd to even contextualize.
Yeah, it doesn't shock me at all. Like, I vividly remember him being, like, a guy you would rank as, like, maybe even the wide receiver 1 overall in a given week. Like, he was red hot to start the season. Like I almost view him not in a tier by himself. Like I'll still put him in the tier with Puka, Wilson, Gibbs, but I can't fathom not taking him. Like he's very firmly my 109 is kind of how I'll put it. As just like a guy, you know he's going to be good no matter what. Like I think last year was like his absolute floor, to be honest with you, like that like 18 points per game area. And in the first round, when there's a lot of landmines going around there, like as long as he stays healthy, you're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I will say I do have him 110 because I just believe in the ceiling of Garrett Wilson so highly. Like we're
I
talking
don't
about a
hate that.
guy that if I'm going through, so we actually, like I mentioned, did that video. If I go to the Garrett Wilson
We're
notes,
on
let
the
me see
clock
if I
at
can find the
103.
exact.
Hold up.
Ooh,
Tyreek here. We could
yeah,
go.
smash.
Yeah, Tyreek. All right.
Yeah, I'm cool with any of those three when they fall.
Yeah, exactly.
um, so with Garrett, if I can pull up these numbers, he has the third most targets in a wide receiver's first 2 seasons of all time. The only two ahead of him were Marvin Harrison Sr. and Jimmy Smith. Garrett Wilson in terms of overall
Jimmy
targets.
Smith.
Jimmy Smith, yeah, the Jaguars.
Oh, Jag.
90s
Yeah,
receiver.
yeah,
He was unreal. He was unreal.
yeah.
Funny
Yeah.
enough, he was a Cowboy. He didn't really get a lot of run on the Cowboys. He leaves to the Jaguars and he ends up being a perennial 1,300 yard plus receiver. So shout out Jimmy Smith. But he has
Shout out.
third most targets in a receiver's first 2 years of all time, 315.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson. Obviously, we know the separation metrics 96, 79, 93, according to reception perception. And even if he just gets 85% of Aaron Rodgers, so maybe it's not quite, back to back MVP Aaron Rodgers, but if we're getting potentially the ceiling of an 85, 90% Aaron Rodgers, he's still a guy that ranked as a top 5 quarterback in EPA, even in the non MVP season. So he's really interesting to me with Garrett Wilson because we know he's good based off the volume he's commanded. And we know Aaron Rodgers is incredible when he's healthy. So it's like, I understand it's more projection than wide receivers in that range, but when you just connect the dots and you realize like, hey, like what's stopping him from potentially having a CeeDee Lamb year 3 type of breakout year?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He feels a lot like last year, Amon-Ra and CD at the back end, where you're projecting forward a little bit for that 20+ point per game upside, but it's pretty much a rock solid bet. It really does just come down to Aaron Rodgers just not like that. And again, this is not my number side of my brain. It's just nothing goes right for the fucking Jets, man. So it's like, we're banking on a 40-year-old, that like goes to Egypt and like does,
the vibes are weird
behind. Yeah, no, the vibes are as bad as they've ever been. Like Robert Saleh put his foot in his mouth saying like, oh, well, his absence was unexcused or whatever. It's like, dude, like shut up, man. Like that was so annoying. It like there was no reason to say that at all. And this is somebody in Aaron Rodgers that since he went to the Jets has been a guy who has been at all of the involuntary stuff. He's been at all of it. Like he's been at the OTAs, he's been at like mini camp, he's been at literally everything when guys of his caliber don't need to do that at all. So like it's just the vibes have never been lower. Apparently they were trying to go behind Aaron Rodgers' back as well and trying to get Arthur Smith to like be the co-OC or like to call plays pretty much with Hackett, and Rodgers hated it. So I don't know. We'll see. I do think, I mean, sharp people are out there and do like the Jets. I know Levitan over at ET Established to Run like bet them to win the division or whatever. So I don't know. I'm just a Kurtz Jets like, the thing is, I was actually optimistic heading into last year, dude. But my God, man, like the vibes in this basement from me and my fellow Jets fan brethren after the fourth play, dude. Like I literally was seeing on Twitter like the doctor showing like his Achilles pop. And like my boys next to me like, oh, dude, he just rolled his ankle. Like he's gonna be out here in a second. He's in the blue tent. I'm just like, just even confident if I should even tell them like what I think probably just happened here. And just like I just sat there in silence. And as the game goes on and we get worse and worse news of because we're like, maybe after half they'll shoot him up with something. Like he'll come back out. It's Rodgers, man. Like you've seen the interviews of him like high as hell after a game for taking the shots or whatever. And it's like, just
especially like it's just crazy that like it happened to both him and Kirk Cousins in the same season.
And now like, both of our like ascending running backs that we have high expectations for, their entire environment hinges on the Achilles of 35+-year-old men.
So, I mean, that's actually a good topic. Obviously, if we get to the pick, we can halt it for a second and then continue it. But I do want to pick your brain at the Brees versus Bijan debate because, I mean, like, I recently made a change. So, for reference, for the entire offseason, I did have Bijan as my RB2, but I did end up moving Brees Hall up there specifically because when you go through just how good of a receiver Brees was last year, like, you can make the case he was a top 3 overall receiving back in the league. And when you actually look at his overall receiving yards line on underdog, I believe is at 499.5, which I think, assuming health, he should be able to smash. And we saw last year that week 5 on after the ACL injury, when he was getting his proper workload in an offense that, quite frankly, was one of the bottom 5 units in the league, he was averaging 19.3 PPR points per game. So with me, it's like, I love Bijan. I think he is the best running back prospect of all time. But seeing that Brees evidently had that floor season, quote unquote, last year after the ACL, and his floor was at 19.3 in that offensive situation, it makes me feel almost he's more insulated to potential struggles if Rodgers were to miss time versus if, Kirk Cousins were to miss time. Even though you can make the argument that with Penix there, you should feel more comfortable with Kirk Cousins. The fact that we saw it with Brees Hall last year gives me a lot more assurance. Again, they're both back to back, but either way, we have a pick to make.
You got a lean here?
Either of the top two would make me happy.
Dude, I'm an Achane slappy dude.
Go with it.
I'm taking Achane everywhere. And I agree. That's where I'm at on the Bijan versus Brees stuff. I don't know. I don't want to put any of what happened last year on Bijan. Like he can bounce back. I don't want to say bounce back. You know what I'm saying? He had a fine season. But he wasn't like, even Brees Hall in like a pretty awful situation in year 1 was like 2.5 fantasy points over expected as a rookie. Bijan was like 0.3, which is like fine. He like did fine on his volume, but like at the end of the day, I don't know. I have a hard time saying like, because there were some great freaking moments. He had the crazy one-handed catch and he looked great. But in terms of like being efficient and like being this like surefire game changer, at least with the numbers, it wasn't there efficiency wise. But with Brees, we've seen him already hit that like 2.5 plus FPOE per game. He has the receiving upside, and it just seems like everything is coming to a point here for Brees. But like, that's all to say that I have them back to back as my like 104 and 105 in home leagues. Like they're both fantastic picks. You can sell yourself on the Rams play caller coming in, using him as like his girly. All right, so our pick here. I'm curious where you're at. We got Devontae, we got Neighbors, we got DJ Moore, Diggs, Dell. You can, if you want to cape up for Kyron or Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it's tough because with Malik Neighbors, obviously the offense isn't ideal to bet on in the early third. But I mean, I just think he's got a higher ceiling than Devontae. It's tough. I'll let you make this choice. I made the Tyreek one.
Let's do Neighbors then. I've been cooling off on Neighbors, but like I'm fine with him here. I've been cooling off on him like at like this because in the past I was taking him like ahead of Evans at like as early as like 212. I've cooled off a little bit. If I went strictly by my rankings, I actually probably would have taken DJ Moore there. But I'm taking him.
That's actually my guy too. I didn't actually think you had DJ Moore there.
Maybe I should have taken him, but we're fine.
It's funny that we're aligned there. So I completely agree with you. Neighbors is a guy that you kind of have to take at that spot on underdog, but he's the guy that I have Neighbors and Moore back to back 31-32. So technically I do have Neighbors higher, but we're at the end of the day, you're not going to be taking. I mean, I also have ETN ranked higher. I have Hurts ranked higher. I have Allen ranked higher. I have Kelsey ranked higher. Pacheco ranked higher. It's like you're not going to be taking those guys in the third round of a best ball league. It's more so like if you're in your home league, Pacheco should be a third round pick. He should be an early third round pick. The fact that he was going at the 4 or 5 turn earlier in the offseason, like I understand wanting to prioritize wide receiver talent, but you're getting a guy that, fun fact. So let me see if I can find Pacheco here just to show how outrageous he was down the stretch last year. In terms of his overall volume. Okay, I got it. Week 4 through 17, he was the RB8 in fantasy, 16.4 PPR points per game. Fine totals. But what I'm looking at is 210 opportunities, 19.1 opportunities per game from weeks 4 to 17 last year. Then when you also take what he was able to do in the playoffs, again, not as efficient as he was in the regular season, but we know he's an efficient player when he's healthy on the field. 23.25 opportunities per game in the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Yeah.
So
dude, I've fully just kind of came around on him. Like I used to be like, I don't know. I have some reservations with like these day 3 backs, and I get it with Pacheco, but like we just seen in the past with like the James Robinsons and Phil Lindsays, and it always feels fragile. But like you said, like he's in an Andy Reid offense. I highlighted in a video, but it is so funny how we had a pretty good idea that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was overdrafted in the first round of both fantasy and real life, and everyone just like it's a RB1 in an Andy Reid offense. We just like Kareem Hunt, Brian Westbrook, you can name all those guys. And like now we're in 2024 and it's like no one cares, But Pacheco as the RB1 with nothing, so much so that there's nothing behind him to the point where they're like, oh, maybe we'll throw Tony out there for a little bit. Like that, it just speaks to how bad CEH, Prince, all those guys are. So you get the RB1 in a Chiefs offense that'll score points and have Andy Reid. Like it's very simple.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I literally made the same point. So in the third round, how third rounds of fantasy draft should go video, I have in my notes here listed. This is the same offense that has pushed up inferior talent players to be taken in the first two rounds in recent years. Guys like Damian Williams, sophomore CH, etc. But once we finally get a talented running back, we don't want to draft them in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I did also want to bring up. We completely skipped over this super chat. I think this is a super chat on your side of the simulcast here.
Yeah, it glitches out because of the stream. Like I don't actually, I'm not able to see that. But yeah, no, I got it now. Appreciate that, John. He says, "Hey fellas, I'm on the clock. Dynasty 1 quarterback league. Vidal or Ray Davis or JJ McCarthy. I don't need a quarterback. Where are you at with Ray Davis versus Kamani Vidal?"
Man, I've been really coming around on Ray Davis recently. I think for Dynasty, I'm probably still Vidal, but like it's genuinely a coin flip, which is like the worst way to answer that question. In Dynasty, I would probably have Vidal just ever so slightly ahead, just for the upside to be the RB1. But Ray Davis is more secure in being the RB2, and probably feels like a higher floor projection. Like Vidal could just be somebody that never even gets an NFL carry.
And that's where I'm at with it as well. It's like technically betting on the long term of Gus Edwards, who hasn't had a full workload year. J.K. Dobbins obviously coming off the Achilles, a guy that I actually have a ton of ownership on. I'll get to that in a second on Underdog. But in terms of long term, I can see very well J.K. Dobbins having even 1 season left and then not being able to, completely get that workload going forward because the Achilles is still an issue there. With Vidal, it's like he was very efficient, especially on all 3 downs. I understand the small school. I understand the day 3 capital. But if you were to make the bet on who's most likely to be the RB1 of their team by year 2, it'd be Vidal. If you were to make the bet, in my opinion, who's more likely to be able to produce standalone value in year 1 and 2, it'd be Ray Davis. So it really depends what you need on your roster. If you're shooting for upside, I do agree that it would be Vidal for me. But if you just need a guy that can give you a non-zero in your lineup, I think Ray Davis is your guy.
I think those are good points. Yeah, like it's close either way. We're up on the board here. I mean, you could talk me into. I know you're not crazy on McLaurin. You could talk me into just an unstacked Mahomes and just figure out, get one of Brown and Worthy.
We could stack them.
That's what I'm saying. You want to go Mahomes? That'd be my vote. All right, perfect. We can go Mahomes and then hope that one of the 3 Chiefs receivers. I mean, one has to get back to us.
Yeah, even if it's like. I understand, like, technically speaking, taking him in the early 5th is like reaching, but even if it's like Worthy or Rashee Rice, I have no problem in the 5 to 6 round area pushing guys up the board at wide receiver because, quite frankly, I just think it's a mispriced wide receiver range in general.
Yeah,
we talked about it a little bit, but tell me why Terry McLaurin is going where he is.
Dude, I haven't found the answer. Like Jaden Daniels is not going. Like I don't think people really understand that. Like. People are like, well, Jaden Daniels might be the best quarterback of his career. Well, first, it's like not a high bar to clear. And then second, he's going to be like, even in a Cliff Kingsbury offense where maybe they're like league average in dropbacks, he's going to scramble so much and take so many sacks as well that you're not going to get enough pass volume to the point where that like overcomes a rookie quarterback. Like it's going to look a lot more like Justin Fields. I'm trying to think like some other like more scrambling quarterbacks. Like it's not going to be CJ Stroud. Like it's not going to be. He needs to be Robert Griffin III. That's what has to happen for him to, give Terry McLaurin a really good season. And I'm going to bet against anybody. Like people want to talk about CJ Stroud, best rookie season of all time. RG3 is a case himself, best rookie season of all time. Took a terrible Washington team to the playoffs. It was just electric. Like he would have been going ahead of Andrew Luck in dynasty drafts after his first year,
especially in 4-point.
Do you have a take here between Rashee Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown?
Receiver you like the best here, I'm cool with. Honestly, I will capitulate to you.
Let's do. I've been cooling off on Hollywood Brown, but I'm fine taking the lowest ADP one here, just for funsies. Or actually, no, let's take Rashee Rice. I keep taking Rashee Rice. You can sell me on the idea that his suspension gets lifted, and even though we just reached like 7 picks on him, maybe not lifted isn't the right answer, but maybe it gets pushed. And
Yeah,
I know Drew Davenport does those threads on Twitter. He just dropped one today saying it seems more and more likely that he's not going to get suspended till next season. So I mean that's a smash there. And then also if it just hovers, if his price hovers on this side of the board the entire summer, then we get like a little bit of a different look reaching him up into this side of the board. So
exactly.
that's kind of why I'm for it there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that analysis as well. He's a guy that, at the end of the day, I mean, the fact that you're getting the second pass catcher in a Mahomes offense in the 5th round, like, it's going to be one of those 3 wide receivers. And to be honest, I feel like you don't need them to finish in that range, but just having the weekly ceiling attached to Mahomes is enough. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that has the highest projection in terms of overall passing touchdowns in the league. Like, if you look at the underdog pick 'em market, Mahomes is at 34.5 passing touchdowns. The
And
next
I wouldn't
closest,
go
I believe,
lower.
I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
either.
go lower.
Number 2, just so happens to be my boy number 4, who needs his contract right now. So,
Oh yeah, you got the CeeDee Lamb contract earlier today. Do we think a Dak deal
it's not
gets done?
official yet. I don't think, is it? Ricky tweeted it, right?
I know
So
Ricky
it should
tweeted.
be. It will
I
be.
think like NFL aggregator tweets or accounts have tweeted it, but I have not seen like a Schefter, like somebody that's actually credible, tweet it. I will cede that.
A 34 is a good figure to be at, because at the end of the day, if you waited any longer, that could have been 36 or 37. Like, again, I would rank Jefferson ahead of Lamb, but if you're CeeDee Lamb, like, why wouldn't you say, okay, I just had an 1,800-yard year. I just led the league in terms of overall receptions with 135. Like, I don't blame him for wanting top of the line market. Now, obviously, of course, I mean, I think Jefferson has a claim to, when it's all said and done, be the number 1 wide receiver of all time. And if you guys think it's blasphemous even saying that, when you contextualize that this guy's averaging 12 more yards per game than anybody else in NFL history, it makes sense. Like, he's averaging right now, I believe it was 98.3 yards per game. The next closest was at about 87.
You're saying this is CeeDee Lamb's career receiving
No,
yards per game?
Jefferson.
Oh, my
It's
bad,
like,
my bad.
so like, I think you can make the case that with Jefferson, like, he deserves to
Oh
be the
yeah,
number 1 paid wide receiver. But
oh
if you're
yeah,
CeeDee Lamb's camp, you would just argue like, well, this past year, like, Jefferson got paid after an injured year. I just went out there, led the league in receptions, had 1,800 yards. Like, I understand why CeeDee Lamb's camp would have wanted a top of the line market, and that's kind of why they probably ended up going. I believe it was 34 million per year they got, and Jefferson was at 35.
yeah.
So as long as it's under Jefferson, I'm cool with it. That's all that matters.
And we've actually like Rowan brings up a good point, like, you know, like Fields with DJ Moore in terms of the McLaurin stuff. Me and Danny brought that up as well, and it's like what DJ Moore did last year was so crazy. It was almost all yak and like touchdown luck. It would have to be like, I just don't think McLaurin has the yak in his bag. So that means you would need like his high ADOT stuff to always connect with Jaden Daniels. You would need touchdowns. I don't think he's ever been a double-digit touchdown guy.
Nope.
I don't know. It's just DJ Moore is like his archetype of receiver is almost perfect to supersede bad quarterback play, where he is just kind of, you can get him the ball anywhere. He has yard to the catch ability. It's tough. I guess you could say that's a ceiling outcome, but then you can also kind of say that for anybody with a, you know, bad quarterback who scrambles a lot.
I would also argue with, I understand Terry McLaurin, you know, the film bros fucking love him. He's, you know, he runs,
Yeah.
runs crisp routes, this and that. I get it, bro. But tell me when, at any point in his career, he was able to post what DJ Moore was able to do in the games with Justin Fields last year. Like, genuinely, I don't think
Yeah.
people realize just how dominant DJ Moore was. Because when you
Insane.
look at the games that he played with Justin Fields, aka the non-Tyson Bagent games, 26.53% target share, 20.42 PPR points per game, wide receiver 5. All great. But the main thing that we take away here, 2.65 yards per route run, a 47.84 receiving yard market share. 47.84. I just mentioned how absurd AJ Brown's was a couple minutes ago. DJ Moore had a higher one. So like DJ Moore was quite literally averaging over 94 yards per game in an offense that was throwing the ball for less than 200 passing yards per game. Like, to do what DJ Moore did last year, Terry McLaurin not only has to alpha Jahan Dotson, has to alpha Benson, it has to alpha all the other ancillary pieces on that Washington offense. He has to do it at a rate that is top of the league level alpha. Like, he can't just be a top 10 level alpha in the league. He would have to be like legitimately the biggest alpha in the league, because that's what DJ Moore basically was last year.
Do you have a lean on the board here? I'm cool with kind of any of the receivers. I've been taking Deontay here.
I will never turn down a Lad McConkey either. He's been getting some buzz. I can see him racing in ADP.
All right, let's do Lad. I've also just realized that I need to get my camera the hell over to the other side here. I've been
You're good.
blocking our draft picks the entire time, but it's all good.
You're good. You're good. You're too late. I hit that long ago. Good luck to Team 7 at wide receiver. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Henry, I do agree right now. Jerry Rice, Randy Moss are the top 2 receivers of all time. But when you're looking at what Jefferson's been able to do in the first few years of his career, legitimately looking like, again, people will argue, oh, the era difference. Obviously, back then it was more deep shots. Then nowadays it's more a volume-based type of passing offense. I get that, but he averages 98.3 yards per game in his career. The next closest wide receiver is Calvin Johnson at 86.1.
You got to lean here. I like Thomas or Coleman. I could be talked into Kamara, though.
I would love a Brian Thomas here. It also puts us ahead of the 8-ball at wide receiver here.
Oh, hell yeah.
We went light at wide receiver last draft. Now we're grabbing the values here. JSN would have also been great to fall back.
Yeah. I've been getting this pushback a lot on DJ Moore, and it's actually same thing with the Texans receivers. There's 3 really good receivers here. My biggest thing is, I guess it's a little bit more shaky with Chicago because we don't know the talent of Caleb, but I would just rather bet on talented players and like what should be good offenses. Exactly. We know Shane Waldron will pass the ball a bunch. We know as well that Caleb Williams is really good in college. It's going to be an upgrade on the quarterback he had last year. So we're going to have more yards, more touchdowns to go around. And you just have to kind of believe in the talent that DJ Moore is. We're also already getting that baked in where he finishes like a top 8 wide receiver in points per game last year. You're now getting him in the late teens. So it's baked in. I would rather just take a stab there instead of being like, we don't know which of these receivers is going to be good. We know 1 or 2 of them are going to be pretty damn good. And I tweeted out the other day too, like, what if Caleb is just like, it's kind of a bit of this is more of a vibes take, but we're seeing across every sport. Like CJ Stroud last year, amazing. We had like Wembanyama, really good. Where these guys just come in and they're just like already ready to go and really sick. Like, what if Caleb comes in and he's like immediately a top 10 guy in the NFL? He has like maybe the best 3 wide receiver set in football as well. Like, it wouldn't be crazy for him to come in and give you like a Herbert Stroud type rookie season.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head here. So when we were going through the round with DJ Moore, again, it just is almost like a cheaper take of like what we have with Nico Collins, where you're betting on an elite wide receiver with other question marks in the room. Like, I think Keenan Allen's a good wide receiver at this point, but at the same time, it's like you look at the trade comp, you look at the long-term overall commitment to a guy like Keenan Allen. Like, changing teams, like there's a lot more risk than people are kind of baking in right now in terms of how the higher career will be. And with Rome Odunze, it's like, I understand top 10 talent. He was a stud. We both think a little bit more for me than you, but like I thought he was a stud prospect. But at the same time, it's like it is still a rookie wide receiver fending off targets. The one constant in this room is that DJ Moore's just a damn good football player. Top 10 graded wide receiver per PFF, 12th in yards per route run on the season. And when you isolate his yards per route run in the stretch that he had with Justin Fields, he would have ranked number 6 in the league in terms of average yards per route run. So we're looking at like an absolute star level wide receiver. He was doing that with an offense that was throwing the ball for under 200 passing yards per game, like I said. Even if he's not that 47% receiving yard market share monster, because more than likely he won't be. He'll probably more so be in the 35 to 40% range if he's the talent that we both believe he is. At the same time, it's like, well, Caleb Williams, if he threw for less than 200 passing yards per game next year, everybody would be shocked. I personally think that projection is probably closer to 225 would be like the cautious projection, but who's to say Caleb Williams next year can go out there and throw for 250 yards per game? And if that's
it wouldn't be that crazy. It really wouldn't be that crazy. If you were to like just take like kind of the career numbers of Keenan and DJ Moore and you like put them all in the same passing offense with Waldron as well, like it genuinely wouldn't be crazy. I think Stroud hit like 275 per game. I want to say Herbert was like 290 per game as a rookie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that should be his median projection, but there's a ceiling here, like kind of similar to betting on the Packers last year of like, what if Jordan Love is good? Like what if Caleb Williams is already really good? Like that's upside already baked in. And I think Brock kind of highlights it well here. It's why me and you are both on Nico and DJ Moore. It's like, okay, fine. It's crowded, but we're getting discounts. You're drafting them later on than where both of them finished last year. And they're both probably going to have more passing yards, touchdowns, etc. to go around.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Again, obviously, I would prefer Nico because he's already shown in. Like as good as DJ Moore was, I think Nico like showed last year. He's also that type of talent, and obviously CJ Stroud, of course, more established at this point as a top 5 to 8 level quarterback in the league. Still a little bit of projection with Caleb Williams, but I can see both of them finishing as top 10 wide receivers, and you're currently not drafting them as such.
Yeah, and Brock hits it well here. Is like, if it's a good offense, like, and on top of that, I was looking at the it's Connor Allen. He has a good tweet out there with Chicago where or he has a good tweet where he just has like the projected points of each offense based on like look ahead Vegas lines. And Chicago's 16th in projected points. I would go Warren here, but I'm
cool
open
with it.
to all right.
We have Chiefs.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What also would have been lovely if it fell would have been Jonathan Brooks. He goes 2 picks before us. Jonathan Brooks is a guy that I am continually getting extremely high on. Like, obviously, I thought the talent out of the draft was the RB1 in the class. I thought him and Benson were both studs. But the difference, of course, is that in a situation in Arizona, James Conner's still a good running back. So I can see Benson getting off to a slower start. But Jonathan Brooks, it's like, Chuba Hubbard's a fine NFL running back, but if Jonathan Brooks is healthy, he's got a legitimate path to be a 20 touch per game type of running back. I can't really say the same with Trey Benson entering the year. And with Jonathan Brooks, if he is able to come out the gate week 1, week 2, week 3, start to look healthy, start to look like that Texas Jonathan Brooks we saw last year, you're making the case for a young ascending running back that could potentially be ranked as a top 8 running back in our rankings on a week-to-week basis. I think that ceiling absolutely exists with Jonathan Brooks, where we're week 7 and we're doing our running back rankings, and he's the RB7 in our rankings.
What do you think about David Njoku here? You get the other side of the Miami game.
I like it.
Phillip tight end. But yeah, like I was actually going to pick your brain on that. I mean, you've already kind of touched on it with Jonathan Brooks because it seems like you really like him a ton. Are you just the ACL is not a huge deal? I guess I just wish that he was in a better offense. But Canales 100%. This could be this year's Bucks, Seattle before that, where the entire offense in terms of ADP was left to die, and then they just come out and are amazing. Too. Yeah,
patched up their O-line big.
What did they bring in? Because I remember like Ekwonu wasn't looking great. Is he like I know some of these offensive line like prospects they just like suck. Like I want to say Andrew Thomas might have been like not great year 1, and then he like you know what I mean. Like I'm trying to dig into my offensive line bag here.
So like the 2 main additions that they brought were at guard actually with Damian Lewis and with Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt from Miami last year. Yeah. You remember him, Damian Lewis? I believe from Seattle. I want to say they got him from, but regardless, though they got 2 interior offensive linemen. Taylor Moton is a really good right tackle as a whole. Like maybe not a top 5 guy, but in that top 10 type of discussion. And like you said with Ike Ekwonu, it's like if he is able to improve, obviously went through his lumps last year. If he's able to improve as a player, you're looking at an offensive line that rather than being a bottom 5, bottom 7 unit in the league could potentially be a top 20 unit. And it's like, you're getting a top 20 unit. Like I understand that doesn't sound appealing, but it's a big improvement off of being a bottom 5 unit. At the end of the day, when we talk about offensive line play in fantasy football, it's more advantageous not being a bottom 5 unit than it is being a top 5 unit. At the end of the day, if you're a top 20 offensive line and you're a running back that gets volume, you should be able to produce if you're a good player. And quite frankly, with Jonathan Brooks, I just think he's a good player. And if that ACL injury is clean, like it said, throughout the draft process, there was no real issues with it. They're projecting him to be able to return early in the season. Obviously, it was, I believe, a midseason ACL tear, but it was a clean one. If he's able to develop, I understand maybe weeks 1, 2, 3 isn't a 20 touch per game back, but if you're drafting a potential 20 touch per game back by week 6 in the 7th, 8th, 9th round of your drafts, for a guy that is 22 years old, showed the efficiency in the receiving game, showed the efficiency between the tackles on a team that, quite frankly, showed with their tendencies of their head coach, want to run the football, I'm all in. I'm all in.
And he's even younger than that. He actually just turned 21 July 21st. Like he's like, so
Exactly.
If you want to bet on, which is why we were in on Brees last year, is that he's young and athletic. I mean, we didn't get Brooks testing, but we can infer that if you play running back at Texas and you succeed, you probably
good athlete.
You know, in a backfield with, CJ Baxter, who we know is going to be pretty good here in the next couple of years. Like, I'm coming around on him. I know I was only cooling off because I was hoping that his price would fall with the pub stuff, but his price is held pretty steady. Nobody's really all that squeamish about it.
So he was a guy even a couple months ago when there was the potential issues of him early in the season. Like he was a guy I had ranked about ADP in the 90 to 100 type of range. But like I recently went through my rankings and I don't even know if I'm high enough yet. I have him at 78 overall right now. And he's a guy that I keep flirting with potentially moving inside that top 70. And to be honest, especially when you're comparing that to what home league dynamic would be, in a home league, you can make the case that he's a very fine 6th round pick, to be honest, knowing the 100%. Complexion of the running back board.
Yeah, 100%. And then like just knowing like that's huge. Like if you can, I think even more so if you have like an IR spot or whatever, then that's like
Oh
fantasy
yeah.
101. Obviously, like you could, especially if there's an IR spot, you can hike this guy into the fourth round. But yeah, like there is something about the idea of like, late down the stretch league winner. We see it with these rookie running backs all the time. I want to say like Kenneth Walker as a rookie was that guy where back half of his first season he was amazing. JT, of course. I think even Swift was kind of like that as well. So there's a lot there, and we've already seen, Canales. They're going to be a little bit cautious with him off the injury, but like they also need to, in a year where they didn't have a first pick, that they just gave away. They gave away Caleb Williams. They kind of have to justify the fact that they took a running back in the second round with like no draft
Traded up
capital
for
at
him.
all. Yeah,
Traded up.
and they traded up for him. Handpicked by Canales, who we've already seen, run Rachaad White into the ground. So like if he was somebody that, weeks 12 on was a top 12 running back, like I think that's like firmly in his range. That's not even like the ceiling outcome, I don't think.
Yeah, that almost feels like the projection. Again, we see plotters that get workloads be top 15 overall running backs down the stretch. Now you're plugging in a guy that can get 20 touches per game, who was quite literally the number one running back prospect in his own draft class that only even fell to where he did, which it's hilarious when you think that like he had an ACL injury and he still went in the top 60 and got traded up for. Like
in
that
an
just
era
goes to show
where
you.
guys are beginning pushed down at running back in the draft. Damn, Wicks goes. My vote here would be Chase Brown. I don't know if you're Chase Brown pilled. You could talk me into Corum. You could talk me into Zeke. You like Chase Brown too? All right, sweet. I know the
Chase.
FSE boys loved him as a prospect. There's been some. I know the
Shout out London,
underdog.
Ontario.
Yeah, he's from Canada. I know the underdog boys have been touting Zach Moss. I will say check it out. I actually they had me on the channel. The video like just went live as like we're streaming here. But I had to keep up for Chase Brown and see Josh in the face as he like him and Hayden love Zach Moss.
Oh yeah.
So I had to come in there and try my absolute best. We could go with another running back here. Like if you want to go Corum or Chubb or Ford or Sharp.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with any of those running backs. I'm also cool if we want to kind of cap wide receiver. We could go with Judy, knowing that we have the Miami, Cleveland. But I'm down for a running back or Judy here.
Damn it. Let's go Judy. I do actually think Judy's one of the better values on the board right now. Like this was a guy we were drafting in the fourth round last year. It still makes me sad because I think he was even a better film scout than he was a number scout or prospect. Like it's actually so like remember that year? Like he came into that year, people were comparing him to like the next Julio Jones. Like after his sophomore year, dude, like people loved Judy.
He was a hype prospect, man.
Dude, like he was supposed to be that guy. Came down in year 3, and then like I don't know. He's had like a billion quarterbacks, a billion offensive coordinators. Get him in over there with Stefanski, with Deshaun. I don't know. I think that there's some upside. There's some upside for him to finish flirt with top 24. I want to say like if you were touting Jerry Jeudy last year, you were looking at down the stretch of 2022. He was like legitimately like a top 15 to 20 point per game receiver. Dude, 11th round on underdog too. Like, so that means in home leagues and stuff, like Judy's going to be free. It's not the sexiest pick in the world, but like, I mean, they paid him a lot more than people thought that they would have paid him too.
Especially in a best ball, man. It's like if Deshaun Watson looks anywhere close, even 80% of what we could have expected Deshaun Watson when he was coming to Cleveland, that passing offense as a whole is completely mispriced because you're getting the number one weapon in the 4th round with Amari Cooper. You're getting, David Njoku in the 9th. You're getting Jerry Jeudy in the 11th. And I mean, the 4th weapon in this offense, Elijah Moore, is going in the 18th round. What I come back to is you either have to be all in on Nick Chubb or you have to be all in on this Browns passing offense. Because I'm telling you right now, if Nick Chubb is not fully healthy to start the year, Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman are not getting big-time workloads in this backfield. Or vice versa, if you're lower on the Browns passing offense, that more so means that you expect Nick Chubb to be healthy and you expect Nick Chubb to be a potential 18-touch, 19-touch per game type of running back. So you can't have it both ways. You have to have it one way or the other. And to me, with the Cleveland passing offense, like I've been taking a lot of Nick Chubb, but when I'm not in drafts taking Nick Chubb, I almost kind of battle back that bet by taking Cleveland Browns pass catchers.
I like that call too, man. Like we talked about it earlier in our first draft where that 3-4 turn kind of sucks, but like I do find myself, it just sucks on underdog, like in home leagues, these guys are going to be fine, but like Pickens in the late third and Amari Cooper in the late third, like never feel great. I do want to start taking Amari more. I want to start taking a little more Pickens. I guess a little bit of just like a random stray, but are you interested in Pickens at all? He's interesting, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the
He's
best way to put it.
expensive, dude. He's expensive as hell.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's like if you actually look at his pick'ems, and that was actually another thing I was going to bring back with Jaden Daniels. So, fun fact, and we'll also get to Kevin's super chat. He actually just noticed this in the chat, so I'll point that out in a second. But with Jaden Daniels, can you guess what his passing touchdown total is over on Underdog right now in the pick'ems?
I would guess like 19 and a half. I feel like that's high.
Exact line.
Yeah. Okay.
Exact
all
line.
right.
Exact
All
line.
right.
And I think that's a reasonable line.
Yeah.
You want to hear a line that doesn't make sense, or a pick'em that doesn't make sense?
What?
JJ McCarthy's also at 19.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I had smashed lower. Dude, I think Darnold is going to start games, man.
4 games.
Dude, Darnold looks good, man.
So the reason why I bring that up is because I'm actually doing research for a video I'm going to put up. It's basically just I don't know exactly what I'm going to title it yet, but it's basically pick'ems and relating it to ADP and what we can kind of expect. And I brought up the McCarthy point. And if I go through the history of quarterbacks hitting over 19 and a half passing touchdowns per in a year, only 2 of them played less than 13 games. Only 2 of them. Deshaun Watson and Marcus Mariota. So, dude, I mean, we're looking at, let me see what exactly, here, I did it earlier today. Let me just grab the exact stat just to confirm it with you guys. But biggest takeaways, it's a video I'm actually going to be dropping this week. So a lot more cool information that'll be brought up. But yeah, JJ McCarthy.
You like Marshawn Lloyd here? I love Lloyd.
I'm cool with Lloyd here. Cool with Lloyd. Right. But okay. So 15 rookie quarterback. This was the stat. 15 rookie quarterbacks since 2000 have eclipsed 20 plus passing touchdowns in their first year. And only 2 of them, Deshaun Watson and Marcus Mariota, did it in less than 13 starts. And crazy stat about Deshaun Watson. He did it in 7 starts. He had 19 passing touchdowns.
He was a monster as a rookie, dude.
So yeah.
Like 9.5 touchdown rate as well. Like just insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what else I want to do here on the turn. Cousins not correlated. Stafford's not correlated.
Tua did go, unfortunately.
Musgrave has same buy as Njoku.
Is this another
into McLaughlin? This could definitely be a Deshaun Watson team. We could definitely just take Deshaun like 11 picks past his ADP here. I wouldn't hate it. Because like the receivers are. Yeah, I think that's the play.
Oh, you want to take Deshaun here? Okay.
We could push him.
Punt it, yeah, for sure. I want to ask your thoughts because I think Demario Douglas is the best receiver on the board, but also his ADP value has climbed up like 3 rounds in the last couple of weeks. So it's like, do you really want to take him in the 13th when he was going in the 16th, 17th? That's kind of where I'm at. Could we also go Burton? We have Chase Brown, so we could get some.
Let's go. I'll take Burton here. It's tough. I was firmly on the Demario Douglas train, and I still am.
The cost went up a lot for sure.
Yeah, the cost went up so much, dude. And I feel bad about it. I was definitely like, I tweeted like, why the hell is he going? Dude, he was going after Javon Baker.
Round, man.
He was going after Javon Baker early on, and I was like, this is just incorrect. And like now he's come all the way up, but I do think it's like somewhat justified. I will say maybe we should have taken him there because I know that I think Hayden poured cold water on it today. And a lot of the Cincinnati beat reporters, it seems like Yoshi is like very much ahead of Burton at this point in camp, but it's also like we're betting on Burton for down the stretch. T is somebody who hasn't been healthy, forever. I'm curious, where are we at on Burton? Demario Douglas is fine, but it's like, man, like now we're paying 4 rounds more. It is BBM, so there's teams with him in the 17th.
Including a lot of mine, by the way. Including a lot of mine.
Exactly. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. It's like you do have to play ADP value because if you're just taking the guy that,
if it's like one of these ones that pop up for a few days and it's like who cares? But yeah,
it's like with Demario Douglas, it's like I do have him ranked in this 12th, 13th round range, but why would I take him where I have him ranked when I want you to guess my exposure on Demario Douglas right now. For reference, I've been taking him all summer, especially when he was 16th, 17th round. Guess what percentage I got up to on him?
We like 25% plus.
31.9%, and that was with an average surplus of 20 picks. I believe my average ADP was at 177. I got him at on the Best Ball Hub. So yeah, I'm feeling good about that.
No, that's nice. That's nice. I got a good chunk of him too. Yeah, but he's falling. So I have him at 15.1%. But I think like if I showed you the Best Ball Hub thing too, like it would be all at like in the pick 170s, and then I just kind of like it's tough. It's tough because he's probably still a good pick, but it's like, man, like I was getting him in the 170s, and now you want me it's like yesterday's price, not today's price. I'm fine, and I imagine you'll be the same way when you get your next batch of like slow drafts in, of like you don't have to maintain that 30% now. Like you got it at a good price, you can kind of just let it ride. You don't have to you don't have to keep chasing him up the board, because like we're not going to look back and be like the year was defined by Demario Douglas, but he's going to be like in the 17th round, he's an amazing pick.
Yeah, 100%. At that point, it was like, are we just ruling out the fact that he can legitimately lead this league, lead this team in targets? And anytime you can get that type of player, that type of projection in the 17th round, I was smashing all the day. We saw last year down the stretch him being able to demand targets. Sorry, a little bit sick voice coming out right now, but 17th round was just mispriced. People are starting to warm up to that. A lot more glowing reports, a lot more of course. I mean, I don't want to say we have an effect on the ADP, but we do see sometimes that when we start bringing up players as mass media underdog guys, obviously, Nick Colano, Mason, you, me, like a lot of like the creators in the space.
Corain, ship chasing,
right?
Those guys, like, ADP chasing. Dude, I like early in the season, like when we're talking, like when we're drafting in like, April, May, June, like ADP is 100% dictated by Establish the Run and Pat Crane's rankings. Like they are they are the invisible hand in the underdog like landscape.
Yeah, for sure. We do notice that quite often, especially just the overall wide receiver complexion showed out Chip Chasing. Shout out Pete. But running back. So the other one that I wanted to point to, the one that I actually do think is a big like needle mover. I want to get your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins because a lot more glowing reports as of late. People are really starting to warm up to the fact that maybe he is just healthy. Obviously, Daniel Jeremiah a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was a month at this point, did say on a podcast that the Chargers are very excited about his overall recovery from the injury. And he basically just said on that podcast, draft J.K. Dobbins if you're in fantasy this year. So I'm curious your thoughts because I do feel good now knowing I have my bags at 23.6%, knowing that the ADP value is probably going to keep continually rising. I guess I'm just getting lucky right now. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out what we should do here a little bit first. I don't have anything. What's your shout?
I like Chuba Hubbard here. We did bet on Jonathan Brooks in the last draft. Like I said, I do think he's going to end up being a workhorse running back. But even when you're talking about just the implied handcuff upside of Chuba Hubbard, he showed he could be a good NFL running back. But you're also potentially getting the implied aspect that he could just flat out be an 18 touch per game back while Jonathan Brooks is getting healthy. So 14th round, man, like even if you're just telling me, like I said, he was a straight handcuff, I think that'd be a solid valuation. But the fact that you're also potentially getting some standalone early season, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I like that call too. And then I'm also like thinking through like how we want to end this team. I would say probably like a 2-6-8-2 probably.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
We did take Achane, like, so I mean we could do a 2-5-9 if you wanted to, but I feel like
half PPR, don't mind grabbing the extra running back here.
Yeah, I'd be open to either. I just don't see any wide receivers that stick out.
We do have the Chiefs. We could go with Roman Wilson, especially because that's the week 17, maybe rookie season. Like he starts heating up down the stretch. You can make the case.
I like
there.
That call.
Also, another a little tidbit that I've been imploring. I want to get your thoughts on this. It's a small correlation, but when you're dealing with tiebreakers, do you ever find yourself just drafting a player in the same division as players that you have a ton of on your team? I love, for example, we have Cincinnati. You draft the Steelers just knowing, again, it's a small piece of correlation, but knowing that you're getting the extra game between those two teams.
Yeah, I 100%. I definitely do that. And it's honestly more so just hoping that they have a game scheduled for week 14, 15, or 16. You know what I mean?
Because most of the time they do.
Yeah, exactly. And then like 14 can get you into the dance, like 15, 16 can, of course, like weeks there's a case to be made that like week 16 is like more important than week 17. So in a pinch when you can't tell, I 100% I'm just like, all right, hopefully in one of those high leverage weeks is one of their two games to kind of look at or whatever.
For sure.
That's actually a good shout by Rowan. We could definitely look at a third tight end or
Yeah, I like that
something
too.
like that. Because
Especially knowing the board right now, what we're looking at.
yeah, like we could definitely make do with just 5 running backs if we wanted to here. Because this is like pretty standard hero RB. Like, don't get me wrong,
Oh,
it's definitely a little thin, but
we have to Kevin. Sorry, I
oh
can't
yeah,
click
yeah,
it. I
yeah.
can't click it. Apologies, Kevin. That's my fault. Is wide receiver, running back, elite quarterback a viable start in a redraft PPR? It's
I'd say yeah.
tough. I think it's viable, but like, could you push to potentially get that quarterback in the fourth? Like,
Yeah, that's
it
you could
depends where
definitely
you're
push the
picking.
quarterback. Yeah, it is interesting though, man. Like in home leagues, quarterbacks get pushed up so much. Like it wouldn't
Fair.
shock me if you saw like a Josh Allen in the second round, even on sleeper. Like Josh Allen's
Yeah.
second rounder on sleeper. I think I was kind of just like looking at the ADPs the other day. Like you might have to take quarterback in the first 3 rounds to get a Mahomes, Hurts, to get a Josh Allen. I've also been messing around with. I'm trying to get a video out here soon, probably Wednesday, where I'm looking at like wins above replacement data for fantasy, and like quarterback. You're never going to have the ceiling of wins above replacement for quarterback of like McCaffrey last year, but like the highest floor pick in fantasy in like the last like few years has just been taking a quarterback in round 3. Like last year, if instead of
Yeah.
like taking like Ridley in the early third, you just took Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, your team like had a much better chance of just making the playoffs and just having like a very stable quarterback in there. So I don't know. I think there's definitely pockets in the draft you can just be like, and I've been apprehensive towards it as well with just like of course JJ Zacharyson, late round quarterback, all of that. But something that Hayden has touched on is just like there is a pretty firm tier break with these quarterbacks of just like nobody can really touch what Josh Allen and Hurts can do on a weekly basis to the point where like
That's where I get to. The
it's
two that
huge.
I make the exception for are Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts and Josh Allen. He mentions here, so Kevin does say I have pick 6 looking at Mahomes in round 3. I love Patrick Mahomes, but the projection of him in round 3 versus even like the Love, Burrow, Dak range, like you're getting what 2 points per game type of projection difference, like 22, let's just say 23 for Mahomes, 20 to 21 for like Love, Dak, Burrow, assuming
it'd
that
have
all
to
are
be an
healthy.
all-time Mahomes year. It'd have to be like 40 plus passing touchdowns, like
He would
for
literally
it to
need to go
be like
bat
a
for bat
crazy
with the
ceiling.
top 2. Because the thing with
Yeah,
Hurts and Allen is like, even despite their situations, the fact that they're just such focal points on their offense, both in the passing game and the rushing game, like you're looking at legitimate 24, 25, 26 PPR point per game type of scores. And it's like, as good as Mahomes is, unless he's throwing for 45 touchdowns, he's not touching 25 points per game. That's kind of what you need,
yeah,
that type of ceiling to be able to get into that top 3 round area. And again, I love Mahomes. Like he's a guy that once he's in the 4th, I'm willing to take. But specifically
I
with
agree.
Mahomes, Lamar, Stroud, the consensus, tier 2, A-Rich as well. People kind of view that as like the tier 2 quarterback. Assuming, of course, Hurts and Allen are the tier 1. I would rather at that point wait for the next tier, knowing that the projection is about 90%.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think that's a good shout of like if you're going to take a quarterback in round 3, it probably has to be Hurts or Allen of just like I think you can justify it there.
Agreed.
And also you kind of just have to feel for the value pockets because it's like and especially I mean I hate to just circle back to harping on underdog, but if a guy like Nico Collins, was an early second on underdog and he's in the 3rd, that's when you pass on the quarterback and you take Collins, you
Yeah.
take a Drake London. If it's just somebody like, why the hell is this guy in the 3rd round? But if your league is sharp and you're just looking at kind of like a sea of like, I don't know, like you're looking at like Diggs and you're looking at Metcalf and like all these guys that are probably like you're probably going to get some of those guys to fall to round 4. You definitely can go that route. I'm trying to look at like
I have to point one thing out. I've never seen a 4-4-7-0 build in round 16.
yeah, me neither. I think that he's just auto picking everything.
Fair. Do we want to
We
grab Jonnu for the week 17 Cleveland Miami?
I'm
Or are
very
we kind
much
of
down for that.
yeah? Okay.
And then our next pick, we have. You could talk me into, or no, we're going to get locked out at quarterback if we don't.
Yeah.
So Daniel Jones is no longer on the board. All right, so we have to kind of take May or Bryce Young. You also have, I mean, no, like Fields Wilson doesn't really work. What do you
Yeah, I
think here
think
at QB?
this is probably a 2 build, I would say. The thing is, having Mahomes is such a nice spot. What's his bye week? Just so we can kind of see what we can play with. Is it
6.
So like Drake May, will he be starting by week 6?
We do have some Carolina. I think my vote would be Young.
I'm cool with it because you're getting that starting point equity right away.
Yeah, that would like if Mahomes' bye was like week 13 or 12 or something, I'd be more open to May. But yeah, you do have the downside of May not starting for a little bit, and taking a 0 in week 6. I'm trying to think of like how we could go with the third quarterback, but I'm also fine with just Mahomes.
Yeah, I think this is a 2 build for sure. I would probably say either a running back or a tight end is probably our best bet because like I want to gauge your thoughts. Do you think Njoku Smith is good enough for a 2 tight end build, or would you want to add a third on that?
I do. I
Yeah.
think that it is like I would probably be fine with that, but like we do have the luxury right now where like we don't really need anything. I think you're right on the running back or tight end. We can kind of gauge what's there at tight end for us. I'm trying to think through nothing really correlation wise. I have been known to tack on a Tommy Tremble before, but that's really only the 20 round
Hey, shout
big
out the
boards.
underdog guys. I'm pretty sure they brought it up first. No, Tommy.
Yeah,
Shout
Tommy
out.
Tremble. Yeah, of course, Josh, just with like knowing Carolina, but like Tommy Tremble could score 5 touchdowns this year. We do have a super chat from Neil S.
Appreciate
What's
that,
up,
Neil.
boys?
Straight
He's at
shooter.
the 101
Yes, sir.
and
Let's take a look
wants
at his
us
team.
to look at his team. What do you got here, man? We got Lamb, Evans, Cup,
He's cooking.
McBride, Lamar, David Montgomery. I don't know. I said David Johnson, Deontay Johnson.
Wait, go back up quick. I love how that guy sniped you on the Andrews Lamar snack, and you just said, "All right, screw you then. I'm just gonna go with McBride and Lamar."
Yeah, you took the Lamar away from him. That's actually hilarious.
I actually like that, to be fair, because how many teams at that spot will have a Lamar Andrews versus how many are going to have Lamar McBride?
Not many. I
Right?
like that call as well. I'm trying to. He said he's at the 1. Is that this team? No, it's the other one.
No, we were just on him. The C Lamb team. He's the one who took Lamar and McBride.
I was trying to get just like a view of his team, but I forgot. Like every time team picks, they're going to put that team up. So then you have McBride, Lamar. Okay. So waited on running back until round 6. Montgomery, Deontay,
a little
Moss.
Early on Monty for me, but that's the end of the 6, not the beginning of the 6. Okay, that's probably where he goes.
Dak here. I guess Dak's correlated. It feels like a little bit too much at quarterback, but I think that's viable. 5 and 9. I think that actually is fine.
Yeah, I think you're cooking.
Zeke, Hawk.
I probably would have grabbed at least one wide receiver where you grabbed Gus and Zeke. But like because you had Dak, I get getting Zeke because you're getting the correlation there.
He took your Tolbert in round 17.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Big
Michael
Jalen.
Wilson, Elijah Mitchell fell like 20 picks here, so that's always nice.
I love that.
I'd say solid team. It's a solid 0 RB team. I
like how we allocated the resources.
Hawkinson has been a like no-go for me, but I've actually loved him as like the tight end 2 on an elite tight end build because like you can just sort of tell yourself on McBride's going to be fine early on in the season, and then Hawkinson can give you like stable tight end production maybe back half of the season to the point where like McBride is now getting in your flex spot, and kind of like pushing your team over.
For sure. I really like it as well because, again, people are not acknowledging the fact that when you have a focal point tight end in an offense, like if Hawkinson's healthy or, of course, Trey McBride there, like one can play in a half PPR into your flex. Like if Vic goes to week 17 and McBride and Hawkinson both catch 2+ touchdowns, guess what? They're both making your lineup. And not to mention having a guy like Lamar Jackson, now you're getting unique because the team that has TJ Hawkinson in week 16, week 17, more than likely has a Minnesota quarterback, or more than likely, again, we mentioned the McBride, a Kyler Murray would be attached to him. Because you have Lamar Jackson there, you're also playing the Lamar standalone value with both those tight ends potentially with the touchdown equity that they have. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. Where we're at here, you could talk me into Clyde for the Chiefs stack, but it seems like everyone's been cooling off on Clyde.
Maybe
I just
Prince
unstacked Dolchich. I don't hate that shout on Prince if you want to get a little weird here.
Do you want a tight end or a running back here? I'm actually cool with either.
I think it's close. It's very close. I think my bet would be. I don't know. How do you feel about Dolchich? I've been coming around on him.
I like him.
I mean, JT Sanders is a choice, but I don't really like him.
Yeah. I mean, my go-to late round tight end has been Tucker Kraft because I do think he's going to end up being the starter there. And
you want to go Kraft?
I'm cool with it. Let's do it.
All right, because we
Let's do
got
it.
like Lloyd. I don't know if we have any Minnesota, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with a one-off Craft.
Yeah, like
Because yeah, it felt a little bit weak at tight end. I think we're all right there.
yeah, the thing with Tucker Craft is his ADP is going to fall because of the pup list type of issue he's been dealing with. I believe it's a torn pec people were kind of reporting, or a strained pec or something like that. But in the 18th round, getting, of course, the correlation there with Jordan Love with that Green Bay offense, you don't need him to be fully healthy in week one. On top of that, when he was healthy last year and both him and Musgrave were on the field, he was a much more efficient tight end. So the market kind of feels almost so set on Musgrave because Kraft has been out as this 14th round pick, top 15 or top 18 overall tight end, wherever his ADP is, but kind of forgetting that, quite frankly, I get Luke Musgrave was drafted before him, and Luke Musgrave got the first stretch. But Tucker Kraft was the better tight end in their rookie seasons, and I don't even think it was close.
Yeah, 100%. It was like it was sort of drawing as like I was a Musgrave guy last year, and you look at like their per route stuff, and
Yeah,
Musgrave as well for like such a freak athlete. Like after the catch, like wasn't amazing either. Like I get some Gesicki vibes from Musgrave as like this freak athlete that doesn't really translate to the field. I mean, we'll see. He was only a rookie. But yeah, I do like Kraft as a shout there. He was honestly somebody before he got like sort of pummeled down the ADP. I was taking more of him, but it's like not much has changed, since I was drafting him. So I don't mind mixing him back in there. I am just checking. I am curious on my exposures here. What do we
dude.
got?
Wait, how do you see the overall exposures? Because I've only been doing it by draft type.
Oh, I do tournaments, and then it's annoying as hell, but I just like click all of them.
So like, yeah, I'm gonna go to dark mode here. I just do light mode during the stream, so my face doesn't go dark. But so like NFL contests, marathon, eliminator, 2024 season, sprint, NBA season. Like there's actually a filter that you can see all of them at once.
This is like only post draft best ball. I'm not sure. It's
Gotcha.
like
Okay.
2024 season. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that's what you're asking, but yeah, like you can see the Greyhound plus BBM and all of that.
All right, that's what's up. Okay. Yeah, I have 72 Greyhound and Best Ball Mania teams right now. And I kind of mentioned a couple of the names, like, for example, J.K. Dobbins and Demario Douglas I've been getting some good value on. But the couple that I also have listed here, like 25% Khalil Herbert. I don't think people realize just how inefficient on goal line situations DeAndre Swift has been. And Khalil
Yeah.
Herbert, again, hasn't gotten the opportunity, but I wouldn't be at all shocked if this is a 2023 Miles Sanders situation where the big money back, the expectation coming into the year, trust the money. And the better back ends up being the backup there. Obviously, Chuba Hubbard last year, Khalil Herbert. So I've been drafting him. Funny, we just mentioned Chuba Hubbard and we're drafting a lot of him.
I know you asked about Dobbins. I haven't been drafting a lot of him, only at 2.4%, but like I've been coming around on him recently. When I went on and talked with Josh, he was speaking J.K. Dobbins' praises. He seems to be into him. You have Gus Edwards coming off of surgery, and he's now like, it wouldn't shock me at all, dude. I know people are drafting Gus Edwards, but if he's just this year's Jamal Williams, where he has double-digit touchdowns and then just like goes back to being an irrelevant back, like it wouldn't shock me at all. Man, it sucks so bad with Dobbins that the injuries had to happen to him. Like he is somebody where like before the injuries was like so special. I don't know. We'll see, but he does seem like he's at least he's the leader in the clubhouse right now to be a guy. Yeah, this is a good shout. He was in my rankings a fade. I moved him up like maybe like 10 spots, and I took him out of the fades list. So he's creeping up.
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy that I wanted to draft earlier in the offseason because, I mean, the whole premise for me why I was drafting so much at 23.6% was he is either A, by August, going to receive a significant bump in ADP with positive news, and B, if he doesn't, he's so cheap to the point where I can just not draft a ton of him in August and just get my ADP value down on him. Obviously, 23.6%. I still have a ton of drafts that I'm going to be able to do. So for me personally, looking at the situation, he couldn't really get much cheaper, even with negative news, because he was a 15th, 16th, 17th round pick. But the only possible arrow he can go would be up. So for me, it's like not a riskless pick because obviously he can literally give you a 0 in your lineup. Like that could have been bad. But in terms of the actual valuation, like positive news would have affected him a lot more than negative news would have.
Yeah, exactly. Now I will say what we've been streaming for a little bit here. I'm gonna
Amen.
go grab some dinner.
Same.
If you wanna, I mean, we're co-streaming this together. It is
Yeah.
always funny when I just assume the host chair here, but
You're
let people
good, bro.
know let the people know where they can find you, even though they're probably on your channel. And maybe what you have coming up here.
So Danny Football 59 on Twitter. You want some lightheartedness, you want some goofiness. I'm your guy. And of course, for the actual serious fantasy football information, Fantasy Stock Exchange over on YouTube. Again, if you're watching the stream right now, obviously I'm streaming as well. It kind of feels funny that I'm plugging myself on, my end of the
Yeah.
stream as well. But also, you, Ron Stewart, me, Fantasy Stock Exchange, obviously my co-host over there with Football Stock, aka Bush. If you don't know us by now, you're living under a rock because I feel like we've made probably 30 plus, 40 plus combined streams in the last few years.
Oh yeah, dude. I
Amen.
was looking when I was trying to pull up your email. Like we get emails from like 2021, but yeah, it's been, not to get sentimental, but it's sick. Like we've been growing
Amen.
alongside each other for a while. I still remember, you know, you guys are ahead of subs here at this point, but there was a point in time where you guys were way ahead of me in subs,
Oh,
and
you've
reached
been
down to
cooking.
me. It was like, hey man, come on, and since then we've been buddies. So it's been nice,
Amen.
having you on, growing alongside of you. As always, appreciate everyone that watched. Of course, subscribe to Fantasy Stock Exchange,
Subscribe
subscribe
to
to
Ron.
Ron Stewart on YouTube, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.